7:30 on the dot this morning. For the first time since 2016, Washington has used inflation to calculate a new minimum wage. We'll tell you why minimum wage workers will receive that increase in the new year. Plus, Spokane County's COVID-19 overall case numbers are trending in the right direction for the first time since the spring. What does the data say about North Idaho? We're taking a closer look by the numbers. Plus, the pandemic has forced many small businesses in our area to close. Now, many of those business owners are saying they're closed for good. But the state is trying to fight this issue with grants. This morning, how struggling businesses can apply.
A bit of a frosty and freezing morning out there with some freezing mist across the Spokane area, but I'm tracking a large snowstorm that'll be heading our way for tomorrow morning.
Up with KREM begins now.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning on Up with KREM. Now, even though President Trump has signed the federal relief bill, he has also urged lawmakers to boost the amount of money that millions of individuals and families could receive. Now, the House of Representatives has answered that call, voting to pass a bill that increases the $600 stimulus checks to $2,000. But this morning, we want to hear from you. Do you think that would be enough money? Let us know by voting in our Twitter poll. Right now, it looks like the middle choice, it can't hurt, is taking a solid lead in our poll. It's pretty much been yes and no on opposite sides, pretty much about the same amount of people saying that, but the majority of you saying, yeah, it couldn't hurt. We also want to know, though, what would you use the money for? You can text us at 509-448-2000. We'll be checking in on your answers all morning long. Of course, yeah, Thomas, that difference between 600 and 2,000, we were talking about it. At one end, you almost feel like you can't even touch rent, but on the other, you might even get a couple months of rent out of it.
Yeah, or you can distribute that into some of your other expenses that you might need to take care of. So, yeah, I think I'm with most people in saying that, yeah, 2,000 is certainly a lot better looking than what 600 is.
I also want to say, too, you know, we've talked about it, too. Our first reaction is kind of like take out bills, knock out bills. That's kind of what we'd use the money for. But I also think when you get to 2,000, you can actually start to think, could I maybe even treat myself to just a little something,
yeah,
you know?
Maybe if there's a little left over, but we'll see.
Maybe something warm because the weather's coming in and it's going to make us want something warm, right?
Yeah, we've been talking about like hot chocolate and whatnot all morning long as well. And tomorrow's going to be one of those days where we'll probably want to kind of hunker down inside if we can. Otherwise, make sure that you're well prepared for the snow that's heading our way by tomorrow morning. It will start in the morning hours on Wednesday, and that's why we have winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories that are in effect for a majority of the inland Northwest, particularly for the northern tier of communities up Lake Tier towards Colville, Chewelah, Newport, Kettle Falls, up to Bonners Ferry, and of course Sandpoint, always getting some heavy snows when we get these snowstorm systems. So I think it will be a pretty high impact event for that region or that corridor, but not an entirely snow event for tomorrow. Some rain might mix in late in the afternoon. That certainly could make things a bit tricky. More on that part of the forecast later on in our broadcast. As of right now, it's 26 degrees. It's going to stay cloudy and overcast all day today. Bit of a mist out there this morning, so make sure to give yourself a couple minutes to scrape the ice off of your windshields first thing this morning if you have yet to head on off to work or wherever you may be heading. But yeah, cloudy day for today, eventually giving way to that snow late tonight, early tomorrow morning. So more on that snowstorm heading our way. My full forecast in a few moments.
We'll see you back here then, Thomas. Beginning next week, minimum wage workers will get a 19-cent raise per hour. Starting on January 1st, workers will be paid $13.69 per hour, and for the first time since 2016, this increase was calculated from inflation, not from a voter-approved ballot measure. Ballot measures have approved increases over the past 4 years, but this new increase was determined by the 1.39% increase to the Customer Price Index over the past year. This will also affect the salary of some salaried employees who are exempt from overtime. Salaried executive, administrative, and professional workers, along with computer professionals, must earn a salary above a minimum specified amount to remain overtime exempt. That threshold is 1.5 times the minimum wage, so that will also increase in 2021. Let's take a look at 3 things you need to know about the coronavirus in our area and across the globe today. First, let's check out our local numbers this morning. The Spokane metro area has reached a new record number of COVID-19 hospitalizations. The The chief nursing officer at Sacred Heart Medical Center is calling it a grim statistic, with 232 people currently hospitalized due to the virus. Now, the Spokane Regional Health District reported 147 new cases just yesterday, and the total number of cases is now more than 25,000. 2 new deaths have also been reported, and 355 people have died in Spokane County since the pandemic began. North Idaho is reporting 332 new cases from over the weekend. That brings their total number up to 15,754 since the pandemic began. Right now, 99 people are hospitalized. The coronavirus is also continuing to spread at an alarming rate at Airway Heights Correction Center. Another 135 inmates have tested positive since last week. It is by far the largest prison outbreak in the state, as more than 1,400 inmates have tested positive for the virus this month. For some context, the Airway Heights facility houses 1,900 inmates. 1 inmate has died from COVID-19. Now, Sunday was the busiest travel day at U.S. airports since the pandemic began, and that's prompted concern from healthcare experts of a surge on top of a surge that could put more of a strain on healthcare workers.
I would say that hospital leaders across the state were not thankful for Thanksgiving, and we didn't feel that merry about Christmas, and we're not that celebratory about New Year's Eve.
COVID-19 has now claimed more than 334,000 lives in the United States. That's 1 out of every 1,000 Americans. And number 3, another coronavirus vaccine is now under final stage testing in the U.S. and Mexico. Novavax has started a large late-stage study after delaying the trial twice because of issues with manufacturing. The drug developer will enroll up to 30,000 volunteers and hopes to deliver 100 million doses to the U.S. early next year if their vaccine is proven to be effective and safe. And to date, more than 2 million Americans have received their first dose of vaccination against COVID-19. The federal government had previously aimed for 20 million people by the end of the year. According to the latest CDC data, more than 11 million doses of the vaccine have been shipped across the country. Looking locally in Spokane, Sacred Heart Medical Center says they've administered 2,000 vaccine doses so far. Now, we're all waiting for COVID-19 vaccines to be widely disputed, and health leaders have during that time warned us that the darkest days of COVID-19 still might lie ahead. That may be true, but what does the data show us now? Let's change our perspective a little bit today. We're going to look for some signs of encouragement so that all of us can continue pushing through until the pandemic officially ends. I want to start in North Idaho. The Panhandle Health District reported 230 new cases of COVID-19 just yesterday, bringing their overall total cases to more than 13,000 today. But take a look at what happens when we add in the moving 14-day average over the top. Look at that drop. Did you see how much it dropped in just a week? Now, I want to add a little bit of context before we get too excited about this drop. The Panhandle Health District does not report new cases on Sundays. They also don't report any new cases on Christmas Day. That means we didn't technically add any new numbers in 3 of the past 9 days. But even then, this drop is still great to see. North Idaho has also now gone 5 straight days without a reported death linked to that day. There's new data every day, so if that number holds up, it'll be the longest streak of days without a reported death in North Idaho since September. But next, let's look at Spokane County, because we're going to start with this, looking at it this way, because there's a similar trend. I want to look at the situation here as we see the first time since spring, Spokane County is seeing an extended drop in the moving average of reported cases. But there's another story that really jumps out at me. We're going to remove this 14-day average over the top. And I want you to notice this one day I highlighted here. This is December 21st. I'm going to give you a second. Just look at the way everything's laid out to see if you can figure out why this is an important day. If you can't see it yet, let's add it a little bit more context for you here. See that? I've been watching this data all year, and starting on November 5th, Spokane County reported the first of 46 straight days of new daily case numbers that were over 100. Those 46 days include 9 of Spokane County's 10 highest single-day totals. The overall total during this time was 12,881 cases overall. That is more than half of all cases reported in the entire year across Spokane County, just in this 46-day stretch. So let's look again. Monday, December 21st, that is when the 46-day streak ended. Only 70 new cases were reported that day. So yes, it is true. This is not the time to lighten up, as vaccine distribution is continuing. But we should all be looking for light as well that's starting to shine at the end of the tunnel, and look for encouragement whenever we can and wherever we can find it. Thomas?
Thanks for that, Joshua. And as for our forecast, a lot of snow is heading our way for tomorrow, and it will start first thing in the morning. So I have the latest hour-by-hour forecast there and what to expect for the first few days of the new year as well. So stay with us. That's right after the break.